Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, last weekend I got to spend a few days in Memphis, Tennessee, and one of the things I did while I was there, which is something that I've always wanted to do, is tour Sun Studios. And Sun is the recording studio that Sam Phillips founded. That's where guys like Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley and Ike Turner and Roy Orbison, a lot of those guys did some of their first recordings. And it's an awesome tour. If you've never done it and you're in the Memphis area, you definitely want to check it out. As a musician, you'll have an appreciation for it. But anyway, while I was on the tour, they were playing some vintage recordings, and I was just kind of moved by that 50s Memphis blues thing that was happening back then. And so I wanted to do a lesson that was kind of a throwback to that. So that's what this week's lesson is, and it's a call and response type lesson. That's another technique that was popular back then, where you play a lead part and think of that as the call, and then you play a rhythm part and think of that as the response. And you're doing both of those parts as the guitar player, so you have to fill a lot of space. But it's a lot of fun, and it's a really great way to practice. So I've got 3 different licks that go along with this lesson, or 3 different solos. Think of them as little mini solos. In this video, we're going to take a look at one of those solos and the rhythm part. If you'd like to watch the other 2, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com and look for EP118. That's a lesson number for this lesson. And you'll be able to download the MP3 jam track, which I have in 2 tempos. I have the normal tempo and I have a slower tempo. And I've got the tablature and the on-screen tab viewer and the other video content for this as well. So all of that's available at ActiveMelody.com. But in this video, we're going to take a look at that first solo. So let's go ahead and start with part 1. Alright, I got my tie-dyed t-shirt, I got my incense burning, I got my VW van parked out back. We're ready to jump into this. I apologize for the shirt. If it's obnoxious and distracting, sorry, I was wearing this when I recorded the intro, and I wasn't even thinking about it. This is a birthday present. My kids made this shirt for me. I had a birthday last month. So I wanted to wear the shirt. I thought it was pretty cool, but I'm just looking at it in the monitor right now, and it may be a little distracting, so I apologize for that. Let me talk through tone settings real quick. I am playing through, I have 2 pedals. I have the Boss BD2 pedal, which is a blues driver, and I have it about 10% in terms of overdrive. The volume and the tone are at about 50%. I have a flashback TC electronic pedal, which is a delay pedal, and I have just a little bit of echo, which you can hear. And the reason I'm using that is because this is kind of a vintage, 1950s sounding style, and that was a very common effect used back then. I've also got a little bit of reverb, maybe 30% of reverb coming through the amp. And those are the settings. Now, you don't have to use any of that. You can play straight through your amp and play clean channel, and it'll sound great. You can do this on an acoustic guitar, and it'll sound fine. So I just wanted to share the settings that I'm using for those of you that are interested. But don't get too caught up in pedals and effects when you're trying to learn guitar. That's a slippery slope. It's very expensive, and it can be very frustrating. Just try and get a decent sound that you like, and kind of go with it. And then over time you can be adding effects and things. Okay, so let's talk through the structure of this song. Now this is in the key of A, and the first chord is an A6 chord, which sounds like this. So I'm going to show you the chords, I'm going to show you the notes, and we're going to get into the scales used and all of that in this lesson. So this is in a structure of a call and response. I mentioned that in the intro. And what I mean by call and response is we're going to play a little lead part, which will sound like this. That's your call, and then the response is the rhythm. And then it repeats the call again. And then another rhythm. And it just keeps that format going. That's a very nice, comfortable format because as a listener, there's a cadence that you can follow. It's predictable, and you kind of know what's coming. And a lot of people like that in music. That helps. Now, you don't want to always be predictable. Sometimes it's nice to mix it up. But for this style of music, it's fun. Now, what's really fun about this, and what I hope your takeaway is, we're going to learn these 3 different lead parts, but I hope that you can take these. I'm going to show you the scales and how I came up with them, so that you can take the jam tracks and you can come up with your own leads. And using the same technique, same call and response, is a great way to learn the fretboard. It's a great way to practice. And it's a great way to improvise with yourself without having to have a whole band. And you'll find it's a lot of fun to do. I can get lost doing that stuff for hours. It's a lot of fun. So I'm giving you 3 starter lead parts to get you going, and then hopefully you can take it from there. So let's talk about. So it's in the key of A. The first thing that happens is this little lead thing that goes. That's the first thing we're going to learn. Now, where are we at? So we're in the key of A. So let's just do a real quick refresher. When we're playing in the key of A, if you're playing an A major bar chord, wherever your bar is, wherever your finger bar is, that's your root fret. And so that's home base. So when we talk about pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale, the bluesier sounding scale, it's going to be right here. You can see my pointer finger goes down on every one of those strings. Okay, so that's the minor pentatonic scale. Now, how do we get to the major pentatonic scale? We take that same pattern and we shift it this way, always going this way, 3 frets, 1, 2, 3. Now we're in the major pentatonic scale. Now, if you don't have a clue what I'm talking about when I say pattern and scale and all of that, I have a blues lead course at activemelody.com. If you're a premium member, which I know many of you are, you have full access to that course and many other assets. If you're not, you should check it out. It's a very helpful course, and it's over 4 hours worth of content and lots of practice licks and all of that stuff. You learn how to play in different keys. So, okay, so that's where we're at. So we're starting here with these notes. Now, what happens but when you have these 2 scales, remember with scales, they don't run parallel. They can intersect with each other, and that's what's happening in this area. Is some of the notes in the minor or in the major pentatonic scale, look at where this finger is. So it's the 5th fret, 1st string. So you can see these 2 notes are in the major pentatonic scale, right? Well, they also happen to be in this position of the minor pentatonic scale. So that's the overlap that happens. So if I play these 4 notes, that's the minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. If I play these 4 notes, that's the major pentatonic scale pattern 2. So remember, pattern 1 for the major is here. So pattern 2 is here. So that's the little sweet spot that is often talked about when you're playing a lead. You can do a lot by overlapping these notes here. So when I play these first notes, those are your first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes. You'll hear, if I don't keep going with it, it sounds very happy or positive. And that's because it's coming right out of the major pentatonic scale. Just remember, when you're playing lead, you really have kind of 2 paths. Now, this is oversimplifying it, not getting into modes and some of that, but the way that I think of it is there's 2 paths. I can make something sound real bluesy or dark or sad or sappy, or I can make it sound really happy or positive. So those are the 2 scales, and I'm playing the same. It's the same pattern in both of them. I've just played one of them down here and one of them here. Okay, so let's go into that. So the way that I start that is I bar the 5th fret, the first 2 strings with my pointer finger, and I'm going to hammer on between the 5th fret and the 7th fret, starting on the 2nd string. So that's a hammer on. So you do a downstroke and then a upstroke right here. Now we're going to come and do an upstroke with the right hand, and we're going to play the 5th fret, 1st string. So we have. Now we're going to do the 7th fret, 2nd string. It's an upstroke. And then back to the 5th fret, 2nd string. So we just made a loop there. So we went. Okay, so that's the first part. Now the next thing that happens is I take my pointer finger and I shift it from the 2nd fret, string to the 3rd string on the 5th fret. And when I hit that note, I'm going to push that note slightly sharp. Now that's an important little side note. I do that just about every time I hit this note if I'm in the pattern 1 or playing this note in the minor pentatonic scale. It always kind of works if you want to give it a real bluesy kind of twangy. You can hear just about any time you land on that note, you can push it sharp. So that's what I'm doing. And then I'm playing the 7th fret, 4th string. That's the last note. And that's what that sounds like. Let me do it slowly. Notice that this stays down the whole time. It just stays barred. Okay, now that's the call, so let's get into the response. Now we're going to play this A6 chord. And the way that I'm playing that chord is I've got my ring finger and my pinky on the 7th fret. My ring finger is on the 4th string, my pinky's on the 2nd string. I've got my middle finger on the 6th fret, 3rd string, and my pointer finger is on the 5th fret, 1st string. And I'm playing that chord. Now here's another easy way to think of this chord shape. If you're familiar with a C7th chord, down in first position, you play a C chord and then you add your pinky to the 3rd fret, 3rd string. But it's that same chord shape, but you slide it up to here and then you slide it up a set of strings. If that helps with you, with the way that you can make that chord quickly. Okay, so that's the chord. So now that we have the chord, we have the response. And the way that I do the response is like this. There's actually two ways I do it. Sometimes I just do these little bright bursts like that. And I'm muting it with my right hand. You can see I'm just literally almost hitting the guitar to stop it. And what you're simulating when you do that, to me it sounds like a horn section. You can imagine a group of horn players doing these little bright pops that they would do. So it sounds like that. Now that's one way to do it. The other way is to slide that chord. The nice thing about this chord is it's very slidable. You can slide it down, or you can slide it up or back or whatever. As long as you land it where it needs to go, you can slide to that, which is nice, and it's easy to slide it. So that's how that sounds. Now, this is another little sidebar, but you can take this chord. This is kind of a nice effect. You can slide it down all the way down 3 frets from where you start to get kind of a cool jazzy, bluesy effect. So if you're in the key of A. Kind of cool. So just remember that with that chord. It's a fun chord. It's an A6 chord. Okay. Now we're going to repeat it. It's going to be basically the same thing. The only difference is when I play the 5th fret 1st string, I'm going to hit it twice. So I'm going to go. So this starts out the same, the 5th fret to the 7th fret. That little hammer on. Now we're going to play 5th fret 1st string, down, up, 7th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 2nd string, and then we're back to the 5th fret 3rd string, and we just end it there that time. Now this time we're going to play the A6 chord, and we're going to slide into it. Now I'll leave that up to you. I did do it in a specific way I had to for the tablature and for the on-screen tab viewer. But you can, if you're playing it, you could slide it every time. You don't have to slide it. I could have just played the little bursts there again. That's where you can just take kind of a creative license and do whatever you want with that. All right. Now we're going to go to the D part of the song, and it's a D9 chord. And the way that I play the lead, the nice thing is it's the exact same lead. The only difference is instead of playing the A6 chord, I'm barring just the top 3 strings there on the 5th fret. And that's how I'm playing that chord. Alright, so if you wanted to make the full D9 chord, you would have your middle finger on the 5th fret, 5th string, your ring finger on the 5th fret, 3rd string, and your pointer finger on the 4th fret, 4th string. And then you would have your pinky bar, and this is how I do it. I have my pinky go ahead and bar the first 2 strings on the 5th fret. And you can see it's just as easy to just grab these 3 by barring it here. Now you're not getting these 2 notes out of it, but when you're playing them quick like that, it doesn't really matter. You got a bass in the jam track anyway that's covering those low end. So from the A, then we go to the D part. Now it's the same notes. We're just playing the D instead. Back to that same lick. There's the A9 again, or sorry, the A6 doing a little slide. Now I'm going to play this lick that goes, which is kind of cool. let's look at that. So we're starting it again with the hammer on between the 5th fret and 7th fret. That part's the same. Then we're going to come up to the 7th fret 1st string, and we're going to walk down to the 6th fret 1st string, 5th fret 1st string. So we just walked right down between these two notes. Then I take my ring finger and come over to the 8th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 2nd string. So let's put it all together. We have. And look at what's happening. It's starting in the major pentatonic scale. And then we're coming to the minor for that note anyway. Back to the major, and then back to the major. Now, for that, I take to play the E9 chord. It's the same thing as the D9, barring the first 3 strings, but we're going to come up to the 7th fret. And then I slid into it. And then we're right back to how we started it for that lick. And then we conclude with the A6 chord again. Alright, let me put all of that together. I'll back up and play through it slowly. We have A6. Now with the D9. Here's the E9. I don't remember if I slid there or if I just played it straight. But that's the first time through. So there's 2 other versions of this. The next time through we're going to go. We're going to play some more major licks. And then the last time through I did this kind of Clapton thing, which is. Which is kind of fun, kind of a Clapton, Freddie King type thing. So, okay, so that's what we have for this first lesson. Make sure you download the jam track, and remember that I have 2 tempos. So if you need to start off and play the slower tempo, that's awesome. That's a great way to learn it, and then build yourself up to the fast tempo, which I think is at 160 beats per minute. I believe that's where it ended up. So hopefully what you'll be able to do with this is start to add your own licks. You know, that kind of stuff. And all I was doing is I was just grabbing some licks from the minor pentatonic scale, grabbing some licks from the major pentatonic scale, and just having fun with it. And it really is a fun way to jam. It's a great way to practice and to just kind of build your library of licks that you have. All right, I'll see you in the next video.